U.S. debt. What does that mean for the markets? What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, May the 18th. And of course, on Friday after the close, they downgraded the U.S. debt, and the markets kind of went into a little bit of a tailspin after a major rally that we've watched over the last couple of weeks. The S&P, or the spiders, dropped pretty significantly, about 3% after the announcement. What does it all mean? We'll see what it means. I mean, again, remember that in markets, they don't always mean what the announcement that comes out. The markets were due for a little bit of a sell-off anyways because they were so overextended. I think tonight, when the markets reopen for the week, will give us a better idea. But it's not a good situation that the debt was downgraded, but certainly understandable considering how much debt that we have and what we have done about it. Knowing that no matter what President Trump does, no matter what we cut, we still are going to be responsible for adding, at current rate, $6 trillion to debt to this year. So again, there's a lot of things that are going on, and it is a big story, and it could create a little bit of a panic. We'll see where it plays from here, but I think this ties more into also what's going on in the banking, okay? And the regulators, the banking regulators, are going to help the Treasury. You know, we have a very much of a shell game going on right now, and we've had it for a number of years. I mean, this isn't new, okay? Where the banks are, in my opinion, well over leveraged. This takes us back to the 2008 crisis. Banks will create the next meltdown, and how far are we away from it? Well, again, fractional banking, which allows the banks to lend out 10 to 1 on assets held. But of course, we never really know about the overall assets held. And of course, what is called the SLR, which has two meanings: statutory liquidating ratio or supplementary leverage ratio. Both are well overdone, and of course will create the major issue that we should expect to see in the banking system. And you already see banks warning about a recession. Well, they're really warning, in my opinion, about themselves, okay? And I think this is a much bigger problem that we have talked about here for months and years, about what the banks have done and what the banks are allowed to get away with, only because they know that you and me, the taxpayer, will have to fund them anyways. So that's a big problem. But I think bigger problems, besides the debt downgrade, besides what's going on in banking, consumer sentiment darkens further to inflation worries and one of the worst consumer sentiments ever. So the markets continue to climb, consumer sentiment gets to get worse. There's a lot of issues here. We talk about tariffs. It's been, you know, the changing of the tariffs, or the pushing back on the tariffs, to the reduction of tariffs, is only temporary. This is not going to last. This is a bargaining game. And of course, why would we be so concerned only about tariffs when I think that tariffs are actually very good? And I think the rally is more bullshit. But of course, I think the rally that we watched the last couple of weeks is more of a bear market rally than anything else. Retail sales have flattened and continue to get worse. Certainly not a good idea, not a good plan when you take a look at it. You've got the Verizon, which I think is great, is ending their DEI program. You know, again, this DEI crap is something that should not be part of a business. Okay, certainly I understand the theories behind it, and I think that it's about time that these major companies, and of course one after another, continues to knock it down. And of course, you have in this world of tariffs and this world of what's going on, you have the major companies, the major players, that are taking full advantage of it, and one of them being Walmart. Okay, and they're telling you that prices are going to rise because of tariffs. Well, tariffs have really not even had a chance to be as dramatic. Yes, we've collected about $100 billion on tariffs overall, but at the end, you know that these companies just take advantage of it. It is no difference than Starbucks when coffee goes higher, you ever see the price of coffee come down from Starbucks, and when coffee is lower? The price of cotton, when cotton goes higher, they raise the price of clothing. Do you realize that the actual percentage of cotton used in the actual price of a pair of jeans is probably less than 0.5%? So again, we continue to get the old con job from major retails, from government, and from everybody else that forces us to be involved in this Ponzi scheme and everything. And of course, that goes to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment, all these scams and schemes that are run by a government that continues to push. And again, I think that is one of the things that President Trump is trying to resolve and get rid of. And hopefully we will clear many of these things out. But I think it is a problem. We have the federal contract levy slows as Doge cost-cutting measures take effect. And don't you think, how many people do you know, and maybe you don't know any, but I know a number of people that have made a fortune on the back of the U.S. taxpayer, have made a fortune on doing government contracts in which, of course, the politicians get the kickback as well as the vendor. If you have any understanding of how the government works and when they have to put out contracts for bid and things like that, it's really another scam thing that has gone on for at least 45 years that I know of. Okay. So I believe that, again, we have to stop and treat the United States and create it more like a business, because government and the country is a business. Okay. Obviously, it's more than just a business, but it is a business. Okay. And interesting enough, we look at income and we talk about income disparity. Well, it's interesting that Mississippi has the lowest income average, which I suppose makes sense. But who has the highest? Okay. Not California, who's up there, but Washington, D.C., which is the highest in income by over 30%. Now, who represents Washington, D.C.? Okay. Your politicians. Don't you think there's something backwards in that the average hourly wage is broken down, that Washington, D.C. is $53, okay, and Mississippi is 31. Okay, now in between, of course, California is at about 40. Colorado's high. But isn't it interesting that we have wages, such a wage disparity for doing very much of the same jobs? It is interesting, and it is something that I find somewhat disturbing, especially because of who's number one. If you told me California was number one because of Silicon Valley, I could deal with that. If you told me New York was number one, I could deal with that because of Wall Street and because of all the finance. But to have Washington, D.C., the home of politics, I don't know, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Of course, we talked about the credit rating and what it's going to do. I mean, again, obviously, this is not the first time the U.S. debt has been cut. I think it's more of a con game, because we know that the regulators and the debt agencies are kind of on the take anyway. So maybe this is a ploy to try to get lower interest rates. I don't really have the answers to that. I can only report what has happened, and I can only report why it's happened and how it's happened, and the effect on markets. But of course, between Friday and today or tonight, a lot can happen, and it may turn out to be a big zero. Okay, so I think, again, we've seen a market rally, which we'll talk more about in our report. We've seen a lot of things done throughout the country. And what's your thoughts on the 8647 message that was, I guess, posted by Jim Comey, okay, which is obviously oust the 47th president? I mean, again, what's your take on that? I think it's pretty disgusting, but it's all factual, and everything is as it says. I think we've seen a lot of problems in government, and I think that you continue to see the left continue to fight, and instead of trying to work together and help this country, they continue to push against this country. And to me, I think that's a much bigger problem. Okay. And especially when you watch AOC and Bernie Sanders out flying privately, doing all these things, talking about socialism. Okay. When all they're doing is taking your money and my money and spending it on nonsense. I don't know, just something to think about. In the meantime, this is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Sunday, May the 18th. We're going to stop out here for a break. We'll be back with our market report right after the break. Bubba's Bottom Line. What's up, kids? Hope you had a great week. Hope things are going well. And of course, we've got our sponsors, which we talk about them every week, and most of them are brokerage partners. So just to give you full disclosure, we do use those brokers, and I do have others. So again, I just want you to know that these are just suggestions and places for you to check out. And of course, one is TRADIER Brokerage, which in reality saves me over $100,000 a year in commission and in fees. And so certainly, if you're trading at any length, for $10 a month, why wouldn't you check out TRADIER Brokerage? Our futures and commodities partner, CTG Capital Trading Group, phenomenal customer service. ITM Trading, which is our gold and silver provider, which if you've watched me on Danielle Cambone, that's who she is with. And I've been buying gold from them for 20 years. And of course, our spookyexpress.com, which is if you like a little bit of wagering, you might want to check him out. Of course, our brand new sponsor and something that we're partnering with and investing in, and that's Joy of Mom. Great program. It is unbelievable. And I can't wait to report the rest of the details. And then, of course, our high school program, which, financial literacy for kids. Hopefully we'll all get it because it's pretty disgusting at what we have right now. In the meantime, let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line with me, Todd Bubba Horwitz, and of course, our market report. Welcome back. It is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Sunday, May the 18th. And of course, markets had another up week. So that now pushes, the markets have had basically a V-shaped formation. And you have to decide, do you believe this was a V-shaped formation recovery and we're going to take the highs out? Or was this just a dead cat bear market rally? I believe it to be a bear market rally. Again, we're not predicting. I do not predict markets. I give you my opinion. And then, of course, I disclose all of my positions to you on a regular basis. But I think that when you look at the overall rally and the overall lack of trade, I think to me it shows that this is more of a bear market rally. Now, we'll see how it plays out. And of course, again, we go back to that debt downgrade. That has a lot to do with what's going to happen, and we'll see what indeed it all means. But in the meantime, as we look at the markets and the four major indices, we have no position. We liquidated during the week, okay, and took the profit from our longs that people quit bitching about and saying that how can you be long? Well, we were long, okay. And at the end of the day, we took profit, and now we're looking to get to the short side. And that's one down day away. We'll be getting short. Okay. In the meantime, in the rest of the markets, the dollar, which continues to be, right near around par. We don't trade the dollar, but if we did, we would be short it right now. We are short the euro currency. Bonds and notes, we are still short. And I think that, of course, they continue to struggle and push to lows. I do believe that they're going lower. Now there'll be some rallies, but again, I think interest rates are going higher, but we are short bonds and notes. Bitcoin, we're flat after being long. Gold, we are still short, and gold again it looks like it wants to take a run down to 3,000. Again, I'm a big fan of gold later, but right now I am still short it. Silver, we have no position, but silver continues just to vacillate in consolidation. Platinum, which we have no position, we don't trade it because it's not liquid enough, but if we did, we would be short it right now. Copper, we are still long. In the grain markets, we're flat everything but long corn, which continues to struggle a little bit. I mean, it's about near where we bought it, but again, at the end of the day, the grain markets continue to struggle. And again, when they lifted the tariffs, this is the question I'll ask you: why didn't the grains pop? Okay, because there's not enough demand for the amount of supply that's out there. Cattle finally cracked, and again, it's come down quite a bit. And I think now we look for rallies to sell. Hogs are still vacillating in consolidation. I'd probably do nothing right in here. Nat gas, we're flat. Looks like it wants to head south. And of course, crude oil has been a little bit higher, and we are long. And we'll see how it all plays from here. But overall, I think if I were to forecast, obviously it's slow. It's going to be, this is like a holiday week coming into Memorial Day next week. Overall, I would look for spots to sell this market. I think it's overextended. But again, you know my positions, and every day I update them for you. So let's step out for our final break, come back with my commentary right here on Bubba's Bottom Line on Sunday, May the 18th. What up, kids? Just a quick reminder of our sponsors: TRADIER Brokerage, Capital Trading Group, ITM Trading, Spooky Express, Joy of Mom, and our high school program. And now let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line and, of course, my commentary. Welcome back. It is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Sunday. It is May the 18th. And, of course, tonight's opening could be interesting. We'll see. But, again, there's been a lot of discussion about, bills that are trying to be passed, and Medicaid and Medicare. And listen, those bills need to be cut. There needs to be a lot of cuts there. There is so much fat in Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security. And not to your fault, not to our fault as the payers and the who put the money in. It is the way the government uses that money, and it's the way they allow the system to be abused. There are clinics that open up just to take advantage of the Medicaid and Medicare programs. It's the way that they have to go to doctor after doctor. And when is the last time you went to a true doctor that actually took the time to do a full examination versus just sit there with their computer? Again, in my opinion, we need to redesign, not take away the care from Medicaid, which is for the poor and for welfare, and Medicare, but redesign the way that we can use it, and redesign the way that the doctors can use it, because they take way too much advantage, because there's too many kickbacks and too many things going on throughout all these programs. Okay. So it's more, goes back to what we talked about earlier, is making them run like a business so that we don't have people abusing the system and scamming the system, because not every doctor does, but there are places that actually are there just to take advantage of Medicaid, Medicare, because our government has never done a good job of accounting for all the money that outflows. It goes to government contracts, all those things we've talked about many times. So I think that as long as, again, listen, I don't want it to hurt any of the people that need it. Okay. What I want it to be done is I want it to be done right, so we can make it better for the people that need to use it and make things better for everybody. And I think that goes back to the way that the government is allowed to use the money that goes into, because we pay that money and then it comes back the other way. So I think there is things that need to be done, and we'll see more and we'll follow more of the story. But in the meantime, everybody have a great weekend. We appreciate you all for listening, and we'll see you back here tomorrow with Bubba's Daily Update. In the meantime, this is Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, May the 18th.